Anybody online? Is Mr. Wagner online?
Yes, he is.
Okay, thank you.
A little trouble with video this evening, but Mr. Wagner is there. So.
Do you need any extra time to get the video working?
The webinar is not, but I'll work on it while we have the meeting. So.
Are they able to hear?
Audio, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Good with that?
Yep.
Yep, okay.
All right, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The board met in an executive session immediately prior to this meeting to learn about athletic and extracurricular budgets. And you're up.
All right, and for staff recognition tonight, we were going to recognize our Family Consumer Science Department, but we moved them to May based on their schedules so that students and staff would both be there together, so we will see them next month. But I did want to just highlight our Black Knight Awards program. As board members, as you know, next Tuesday evening we'll be honoring our retirees as well as our Black Knight Award winners. Just to share this from a staff recognition standpoint, Black Knight Award started in our district thanks to Mrs. Hall several years ago, but the Black Knight Awards were created in recognition how the Black Knights name was selected in the district. I know I've talked about this in a variety of settings. We're going to thank Ken Bowers. It was the gentleman class in 1955 who convinced that class that we should become the Black Knights. But Ken was infatuated with the U.S. Military Academy, who was at that time the pinnacle of football with a winning record in the early 50s. And the New York sports writer dubbed them the Black Knights of the Hudson. And so he wanted that to be the mascot, if you will, for Hempfield, because he always felt that the military football team won with class, and that's how he felt about his teams and the peers at Hempfield. And so that's stuck with us, and so we're honored to have these awards. And so we ask our staff to nominate other staff who demonstrate or have the respect and admiration of their colleagues, who make connections daily with their work, and students and staff to help them achieve success, demonstrates expertise in their field, guides students and staff of all backgrounds and abilities to achieve success, sets a positive example, and exemplifies the Black Knight qualities of pride and humility. So we open that up for probably a little over a month, about that time frame. We had over 150 nominations, and then I am thrilled to report that we'll be honoring these individuals. We've already communicated out, but to share it here, our Black Knight Award winners, while she does not want me to say her name, someone sitting to my right, congratulations. Jeanette Longenecker, Kara Greer from CES, Jennifer Welleneck and Laurel Hill from CMS, Crystal Zhu and Jen Spangenberg at East Pete, Charity Lux and Elizabeth Erb at Farmdale, James Meyer, Madeline Gates, Rona Stowe, Todd Zettelmoyer, Ben Mitchell, Eric Kirchner, Jeremy Gwynn, and Katie Miller from the high school, Teresa Klauser, Josh Diffenbach from LIC, Tammy Foltz, Jen Landis from LMS, Abby Wirt and Leah Blank from LPC, Janet Wenger and Missy Paulp from Mountville, Jasmine Marquez and Heidi Weber from Rohrerstown. And we also not only do our teaching and non-teaching awards, we have two substitute awards that we do, and those individuals are Deborah Dandridge and Jessica Fisher. So we're excited to be able to honor and recognize them for their great accomplishments this year coming up next Tuesday, and we're looking forward to those who can make it to join us for that event.
Since she's here, can we say thank you to Carissa? To all of them, and we will applaud the rest of them next week.
So it's great to be able to do those recognitions. And then before the board moves into the next section of board approvals, I just want to provide some clarity. I know we put on our website yesterday afternoon regarding Board Docs, which is the system we use for generating our board agendas and access for board members and then the community to view everything. Board Docs is owned by the company Diligent. It is used across the country, and we found out very early Monday morning that Board Docs was down. It was not working. Nobody could get into it. And when we checked with the company, they could not even get into it, and they did not have a projected time as to when it would be fixed. And so if you tried to get on, it would just spin. And so as the day progressed, we continued to follow up with them. They thought it would be fixed in the evening, and it was not. And so we did post on our website that Board Docs was down, and then as soon as we had the link. But as we got closer to the start of the board meeting to be able to ensure that agendas are live 24 hours in advance, we worked from scratch to create an agenda, very brief, so that something could get posted. It was posted around 8:20 last night. Thank you, Mrs. Burkholder, for getting all of that together and up. So as a result of that, we indicated that we will proceed with the meeting starting at 6 o'clock. We will work through all the procedural components, all the discussion, all the presentations. However, to ensure that we're in compliance from the Sunshine side, we won't take any of the votes until 8:20 p.m., just to make sure we're fully in compliance with that. While we, at this time, do not have any residents' requests to speak at this meeting or the Building and Grounds meeting, prior to the board voting, we will ask if anyone in the audience wishes to speak on any of the topics we're discussing at both of those meetings. So we're going to kind of move through the board meeting and then to Building and Grounds without doing any of the voting items. We'll recess this meeting to go into Building and Grounds so that we can come back. But I do want to highlight just a few things on the agenda and just need the board, as you get into the next topic, to make some decisions about a few items. So for the board meeting standpoint, we will be working through all the beginning portions. When you get to the voting items, we did post the personnel report for individuals to be able to see. The financial action items, I did not list out the reports in terms of the check register, the capital expenses that need to be paid. You do have access to it. You as board members did have access Thursday, Friday, a little bit over the weekend until Board Docs went down. When we get to that section, we're going to ask you to review those items. If you have any questions, we can certainly answer them. But that is something that we do feel is important to be voted on because we need to pay the vendors for services and/or reimbursements. The contracts, while we listed other contracts, in my quickness, I copied not only the one for this meeting, but also ones that you're going to be viewing at Buildings and Grounds and put them all together. So the only contract that we need to be voted on tonight is the Three Monkeys contract for the Gaga Pit for CMS. That is for an event coming up. We will, at the Building and Grounds meeting and Finance meeting, be able to review the other contracts, and those will be on the May 12th meeting, so just to provide some clarity there. In terms of the financial voting items, again, you have the financial reports, the financial transactions we will review. The Lancaster County Academy budget, you may or may not have had enough time to view it. We can move that to May 12th because that is actually not due to Lancaster County Academy on the 27th. So we'll have plenty of time to be able to do that. That's the board's purview to wait on that one. That is just fine. When we get to the next section, then we would just need a motion to amend the agenda if the board approved that particular piece. The policy items, we listed the policy numbers that we would be working through. Those were on previously at the policy meeting. They are all first reading, so there will still be more time, so I think we are good to go to do voting on that. Other action items to sell and dispose of, that's not urgent, so if you have not had an opportunity to view that, we can push that to May 12th if you wish. The overnight trip to Regeneron, that is for one of our students and a chaperone to go to the National Championships for the Science Fair. That is important for us to vote on because that trip is before May 12th. We have the expense of the dollars for that within the budget. We have a chaperone, it's for a student. I don't believe that student or that student's parent is going to be here tonight to speak in opposition to that, given that he won and is competing. The non-school sponsored trip request, that can be held till the 12th. That's the purview of the board. And then the resolution for state funding, that has no cost associated with it. That's the board's discussion. There's no reason that can't be voted on. It's very straightforward. It meets the district's priorities. I shared that in board news. If that's the will of the board, that can be voted on tonight or moved to May 12th. And then again, at adjournment, we will recess, given that it won't be 8:20. I expect us to move through this relatively quick to get to Building and Grounds. So we just will not adjourn. So those are the differences between what was posted online and what you as a board saw and what it appears that people can now see in board docs, as well as the Google link that Mrs. Rhodes sent to you all this afternoon. Just wanted to be fully transparent and talk through that. There's no harm in moving forward with all of it, but you do have the ability, should you wish to take some more time on several of those options, that's up to you. And then we go to
back
number
to
3.
Number 3. All right. Does anybody have questions for Mr. Bomerski before we go to number 3?
Yeah, is the stuff in the Google Doc what was posted on the website?
Yes.
Okay. So no changes
No.
since it got posted?
No. Other than the contract, it's just one, not all of them.
Okay, so before I ask for a motion, is there a need to amend the agenda? Does anybody have a desire to move any of those things to a future meeting? Mr. Keener?
Yes, so in accordance with the superintendent's recommendation, I move to amend the agenda for this meeting to defer all voting items until at or after 8:20 PM.
I'm just clarifying, do we need a motion for that? It's
Well-
still part of the, they would still remain in the
I mean,
agenda?
I think that's what he was just asking for.
No, he's just
No.
asking if there is anything
And
that
I
needs-
thought
that you
in the
were wanting
email,
to pull out.
you said we had to amend the agenda.
If you wish to pull some of the items out and wait till May 12th, we can amend the agenda to do that. Otherwise, we're going to recess at the end and not adjourn, and we'll come back to everything else that we can vote on, no issues. So the question is, do you want to pull anything out and move it to May 12th in terms of the Lancaster County Academy budget, the sell and donate, the non-school sponsored trip, and that's it. If anyone wants to pull those out, we would amend the agenda to
Okay,
pull
so we're
those
gonna have
out.
2 meetings going on simultaneously if we're recessing and not adjourning?
The Building and Grounds and Finance is a separate meeting.
Right.
We will, excuse me, we'll start our board meeting. If it isn't 8:20, which we don't expect it to be, by the time we need to vote on anything for the board meeting, we will recess, begin our buildings and grounds presentations, still no voting needed, and then, once 8:20 rolls around, we can go back to voting on things tonight that are in our regular agenda, but they're
Okay.
still within the proposed agenda,
Thank you.
just order of operations, sort of. Any need to pull anything out of the
Okay,
agenda?
I withdraw my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Keener. Any other needs? All right. Do I have a motion then to approve our agenda for tonight?
Motion.
As, I think I heard Mr. Williams first, Mr. Best second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Is Mr. Wagner on?
I am in favor.
Thank you. That would be
Thank
9-0.
you.
Moving next to approval of the minutes. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting on April the 14th and the Education and Programs, Policy, Personnel, and Legal Committees meeting held also on April 14th. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Small. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Eshelman. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes. Aye.
Aye.
In favor.
Opposed? That's 9-0. And still no requests for residents, correct? Okay, no residents request to address the board tonight. We'll move on to the district update from the superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you, and again, good evening. As I shared, next Tuesday, we will be recognizing our retirees and our Black Knight Award winners. Next Monday, I will be heading to Harrisburg for Advocacy Day with PSBA. Have meetings scheduled with Senator Malone, Representatives Miller and Rivera, to be able to talk about impacts of the budget, state funding, and our district. If there are other board members going on
I believe
Monday.
myself and Ms. Small, Mrs. Eshelman. Anybody else planning to attend?
Great. So it'll be a nice showing then on Monday. I know there's other events going on Tuesday and Wednesday in terms of Advocacy Day up at Harrisburg as well. And depending on schedules, I know some others are going, I think, on Wednesday. And Tuesday was another day I could have gone, but since we're going Monday, it'll be a repeat. So we'll take advantage of the time on Monday. The other piece that I wanted to share with regards to some high school updates, I've been providing you when I've received those updates in board news, sometimes quite lengthy, sometimes short, just depends on what's happening. I am pleased and thrilled to report that our land development plan was submitted to the DEP today. Was submitted earlier today, so it is in their hands now, and we will work through and make some connections to see if potentially this could move through at a quicker pace. I shared with you last Friday what the representatives from ELA noted to me in terms of why they just wanted a little additional time due to some calculations and some potential pooling of water based on those calculations that they wanted to work out, and also knowing some things that DEP has looked for in the past. They want to make sure that they could do everything they can to try and minimize any kind of letter coming back saying we need more work to be done on the project. So fingers crossed, we're hopeful there. In terms of the traffic study, working back and forth with the ELA traffic team and East Hemphill Township, the hope is that everything will be submitted this week. There's been a lot of conversation going back and forth between the ELA traffic team and the township's traffic engineer. They've been working through some of the requests of the township, and I believe they have reached some consensus at this point. The only outstanding piece I shared with you at a prior meeting that 4-hour counts were completed, and they had to do a 12-hour count to see if that meets PennDOT's requirements for a light here at Bank and Church. Indications right now show that it does not meet the requirement for a light. However, they're working through ensuring average speeds and whatnot, so you will see some counter strips that are just as you're either going up the hill or coming down the hill. Those will be up until Thursday. In the meantime, they're working through other parts of the study. They are targeting submitting it this Friday, which then gives the township engineer time to review the 12-hour counts and the subsequent information. We should then have everything in a decision by May 7th to see if we're able to make the Planning Commission meeting on May 13th. And if we get to the Planning Commission meeting on May 13th, we get through there, then we're at the Township Supervisors meeting on May 20th. Pending all approvals there, we'll be submitting, KCBA will be working to submit all the necessary paperwork to obtain the permit. And once we hear from DEP and get all of those approvals in May, then as long as it's looking good, we potentially could go out to bid in May. And then 6 weeks later, 7 weeks thereafter, be able to hopefully award those bids. There are some good indications of recent bids that are coming in lower than projected in different projects, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to continue riding that wave of lower bids coming in. Fingers crossed there. So that is the update on the high school project. Sorry, one more other caveat. We were working through an egress meeting, just some informal conversations today. KCBA team has the information they need to continue conversations with the code compliance officer of the township and then submit everything. We do believe we have worked out a solution for egress for the Buchanan Gym for year 1. We will have to then wait and see how things progress with construction for what we might need to do for year 2. But the main piece right now is getting year 1 approved. And so we feel like we're in a good spot. We will potentially have to reduce capacity in Buchanan Gym for our events, but that ensures that the proper number of people can get out the proper number of exits in a safe and efficient way. So we feel like we'll be able to do that and go from there. So, some good progress
Yeah,
is being made.
Good.
And then you have the calendar of events, and the enrollment report was already provided at the last meeting. So any questions for me?
So what does all this mean for the timeline that was discussed several months ago? Is it realistic that construction will start this summer and that the project will be completed by 2031?
Ryan Scott? Ryan?
Okay. So in working with Fidavia and DLA on the project schedule, pending awarding of bids sometime this summer, yes, project would be on track, on schedule, beginning this summer, end of this summer, through then construction, final construction, site completion, 2031.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So if the indication is saying that we don't need a traffic light, but it wasn't ELA planning on putting a traffic light there anyway?
So whether there would be or wouldn't be, we were going to seek a deferral for that towards the end of the project. So right now, we just need to know if the traffic engineers are going to push for that or not. And if they do push for it, again, we'll seek the deferment to later in the project. If they don't, we're going to have some alternative, potentially drawings, which is what I'm waiting to hear back from ELA as to what might that look like. It all depends on what they get from their counts in terms of the average speed. So there's still a question mark. It was built in, kind of thinking of this would now have to be something we would have to do, but if we don't, that is a good
Okay, so
sign,
that would be a cost savings, potentially.
potentially.
Tell your friends and neighbors to drive very slowly through there over the next
I
few
know,
weeks.
those strips, maybe they'll slow everybody down. Slow down this
Get one of
weekend,
those
everybody.
signs.
Slow down, slow down, yeah.
Other questions? Okay, that concludes the superintendent's report.
All right, I don't really have anything much other than just to explain, Mr. Wagner asked me to explain that while he is online, he may be on and off throughout the night. It may not be a constant, just an FYI. So we'll keep checking in to see if he's still there throughout the evening. I will move ahead to the adjunct reports. Director Linton for IU13, please.
Yes, thank you so much. The IU13 Board of Directors met on April 8th in Lebanon. We had a presentation by the student-led mini business called Vibrant Prints. It's part of the IU School to Work program in affiliation with Lebanon Valley College. Students shared the work that they do to design, process, and ship printing orders for everything from signage to candy wrappers for special events. And if you'd like to learn more or place an order with Vibrant Prints for your next event or printing needs, please just let me know. We also learned about the Crazy Daisies, which is an ability-based learning class, which operates another mini business. They design and create handmade crafts, and we were lucky enough to receive a gift from them at the meeting. It was beautiful. Like Vibrant Prints, these students build practical skills in their communication, their teamwork, problem solving, money management, all that kind of stuff, while also being able to work in a real world type setting, preparing them for life after school. With that particular business, there's also fine motor development and those kinds of skills that go into working as a team there. So a lot of benefits to that. And proceeds from their sales directly support it's like community-based instruction, so their field trips and their experiences going out and learning in the community. It's always just really rewarding. I'm grateful that I get to be a board member at the IU because it's always a very rewarding experience to learn about all the great work that is going on out there for our students and around the IU. Of note, the IU13 prom is going to be hosted on Friday, May 1st from 6 to 10 at Bent Creek Country Club. Prom is open to IU13 students who are 14 and older, and also district students who are enrolled in special education classes, same age, that 14 and older. Evening is scheduled to include a plated dinner, professional photos, DJ, dancing, all the fun things you would expect at a prom. Tickets are $35, and registration is still open, so if we have any students who are interested in attending, reach out to an IU teacher. They will have all the information you need. The board also received a hard copy of the state mandates for public school districts. If anybody would like to look through this 106-page joy of all the things we look at, I have it here for you. And we approved a number of contracts that evening as well. Next meeting is Wednesday, May 27th, and that'll be in Lancaster.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Eshelman for Safety and Security.
All right, the Safety and Security Committee, we didn't have any pressing items to discuss at this time, but I think we all kind of want to wish everyone a safe and healthy end of the school year. I'm talking about traffic, from increased traffic and speeds because of the nice weather, to any stress that end of the year testing is creating for people and end of the year responsibilities. I think it's an important reminder to take care of ourselves and each other at this time, and thanks to everyone else who takes care of us and keeps the district and surrounding Hempfield community safe, including school bus drivers, because it's School Bus Driver Appreciation Day. So just thanks overall, and we'll get through May safely and securely. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Small for PSBA.
Sure. So I'm going to send out my notes from the recent liaison update that was last week, or actually earlier this week, and it'll have some calendar events of things coming up, but I want to highlight some state legislative updates. The Senate did return to session last week, and the House is in session this week. Regarding the cell phone bill that was passed in the Senate, that was referred to the House Education Committee, and PSBA expects some movement there the first part of May. PSBA is pushing for House Bill 2025 and 2067, which would allow for reimbursement of loans that are taken out if the budget is late, and would also allow districts to decide to allow kids to work remotely if there is a budget impasse. So some of that sort of pressure on making sure we have an on-time budget. So hopefully but I am hearing positive things, that everyone's moving forward with working towards a budget. Recently passed in the House, there was a mental health awareness bill written by one of our school board directors, Mr. Williams. So we were glad to see that passed in the House. As far as recommended actions and advocacy, PSBA is calling for an on-time, adequate state budget. And so they are urging for school boards to pass a resolution, which we have on our agenda for tonight. And that will echo those priorities. Sort of the focuses that they have are relief from costly and burdensome mandates, and the impact of budget impasses and support for school infrastructure needs, which is currently not reflected in any funding. PSBA does continue to hear that there is support for keeping adequacy dollars in the budget, which we've discussed might be a vehicle that we can use for full-day kindergarten if those are approved for this year. PSBA does not have as a priority cyber charter reform for this year. They are preferring instead to let the reforms of the last 2 years settle out. You all were sent an email on April 13th with a link to a survey about legislative priorities. So if you've not filled out that survey yet, it is due on June 26th at 5 p.m. Echoing Mr. Bermersky, PSB Advocacy Day is Monday, May 4th. Some of us will be also returning on May 6th. And we will be utilizing the services of PSBA to meet for a board retreat or workshop on June 11th. Just a reminder that if you want to be a delegate to the Assembly on November 7th, that we're still, I think, looking for one additional delegate. So let me know if you are interested in that. And I think that's it. Again, I'll send you my notes for more details. And then do you want me to roll right
Yes,
into
go
the
right
other?
ahead with Lancaster County Academy.
Ms. Small, if I can just,
Yep,
one
sure.
piece, if you are engaging with legislators at different points, School Director Linton's reference to the state mandate booklet that's there. One of the pieces that never comes with legislation for schools, whether it's passed through school code or just bills that come through, is that the actual cost to schools. And so we often talk about unfunded mandates because then we're incurring those costs. So one of the things that I know I'll be speaking about is when bills are proposed and or looking for consideration for passing through the House and Senate, that they should really start attaching what it's going to cost schools to implement those bills. Because those are the costs that we are going to have to incur and find ways within our budget. That's never discussed or included, whether it's through the IFO or the IBO, depending on what they have, but they should be able to cost out potential or prospective costs for school districts. That's an important piece that I think is seriously missing when they talk about the school code bill or other pieces of, yes, all of these things we want you to do, but you figure it out, but what are the costs? And maybe if the cost conversation was still part of it, maybe they would start actually pulling some of the unfunded mandates out, because we've had those conversations. If you're going to add something in, then pull something out. Or better yet, add
give
one
us
in,
more
take
money.
5 out. But being able to talk through, like, what's this actually going to cost schools? Like, where you're going to have to pay for subscription services, you're going to have to pay for programs, you're going to pay for staff. Like, what does that look like? And if it's a priority for the state, then put the dollars to it. So I think that's a good talking point to be able to use in any context that you're interacting with legislators when it comes to stuff around school. So, thank you.
So I attended my first Lancaster County Academy JOC meeting on April 1st. I was also able to get a tour of the campus from the director and hear about the good work that they have going on over there. We will be approving their operating budget for next year on tonight's agenda. The biggest increase over last year, and again, all this was new since we just joined this committee, is rent on the West Campus. So LCA is currently negotiating that price with the church that provides that space, and they said that they would give us an update at the next meeting. They are hopeful that it will be a lower number than the one that is included in the current budget, but even at the highest number, which is what they included in the budget, they're still operating in the black for next year. So if anybody wants more details about that, I'd be glad to answer those questions. We also approved Dr. Axe to be the superintendent of record for the 26-27 school year, and got some reports on enrollment and expected graduation. Graduation ceremony at LCA will be on May 30th. And we heard that it's a very personal ceremony. Each student has a staff member that gives a very personalized speech for them. And our next meeting of the JOC will be May 27th.
Ms. Small, could you just repeat what that graduation day? Was that the 20th or the 30th?
30th,
30th,
May
thank
30th.
you.
I think it's at 9:30 a.m. I think it's early in the day.
And we will be putting forward a revised contract for LCA, because when they provided the original one based on their previous budget, with some of these changes, their rates went up slightly. So we'll be getting that back in front of you in May.
Okay.
All right. We are moving ahead to standing committee reports, and I will go to Ms. Eshelman for Education and Program.
Okay, Education and Programs Committee meeting was held on Tuesday, April 14th. It was all about kindergarten. We recommended to move to full-day kindergarten for all within our buildings and space that we have in Hempfield. For next year, that means expanding our classrooms. So I believe the consensus was there'll be 2 full-day classes at each elementary building. I think we're really proud of the move last year to have a EDK classroom at each elementary building, and we want to keep that momentum going. And then next year is just an additional step to get there. And then the Kindergarten Exploration Committee, thank you for everyone who is part of it, but our work still continues. As we're moving ahead to plan and implement the full-day K across the district, not just quickly, but kind of quickly, but also with quality of programming at the forefront of our planning is where we want to go. So more to come, and we'll be giving updates regularly on that, I believe, next month, and then through summer and into fall to just keep that going in the next school year.
Great. Next is back to Ms. Small for Policy, Personnel, and Legal.
Sure. There are several policies up for first reading on tonight's agenda. Most of those were policies with very little changes recommended. They were more about updating language to get our dates up to speed, and a couple of just recommended updates. And then we also discussed policy 201 related to admission of students to talk about getting some input on how that policy might be revised related to kindergarten and first grade students and their admission into the district. So Dr. Dandridge will be taking that discussion into advisement as he revises that policy.
Okay. This is where we do, as Eshelman said,
Choose your own adventure board meeting. Like, we have to skip this because of this.
Still too early. So we're going to move past action, or number 9, personnel action items, finance action items, blah, 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 11 and 12. I think we can go ahead with action item 12E. That does not require approval of any funding. That is approval of our state funding resolution. So is there a motion to approve the resolution calling for the increased state funding as presented?
Point of order.
Mr. Keener?
What is the difference between item 12E and the others under the Sunshine Act?
I agree with Mr.
Yeah.
Keener. I thought we were holding all voting till later.
We can.
Okay.
I think that would be
Well, I mean,
wise.
I'd like to hear an explanation of why we think it's okay to do this one, but not everything else.
I thought it was okay to do this one because this is coming from the board. It's the board's collective thought from an advocacy standpoint. It's not
It's
anything.
still official action.
That's fine. It's,
So, I mean, if
said-
that's what she wants to do, I just want to hear why it's okay. mean,
She asked and I said, I think this one's okay because it's just board discussion and is this collectively the path that the board wants to move to advocate and provide that resolution? If you want to wait, that's fine.
I'm fine to wait. We can hold that one off until after 8:20.
Yeah.
And so I think that, let me just do a quickie here, make sure there's nothing else. I think at this point then, we will recess the regular board meeting and convene the Buildings and Grounds meeting and get back to the board meeting after 8:20. All good there? Okay. So I, just going to stay put. I will call the meeting of the Buildings and Grounds and Finance Committee meeting to order. Do I need a motion to recess before I do that?
I don't think we need a motion to recess. I mean, you can if you want to just formalize it, but I don't
I'll
believe we
just call a
do.
recess.
Yeah.
Okay. Just make that decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're calling the Buildings and Grounds and Finance Committee to order. Is Mr. Wagner online at this point?
I am still online. However, I probably won't be here too terribly long yet, but I'll hang on as long as I can.
Great.
Thank you.
And then if I can just clarify, based on the agenda that was put online, everything that you're going to be discussing tonight is there. On the finance side, the auditor RFP will be reviewing through a PowerPoint first with regards to the process proposal. When we get down to financial action items, the acceptance of that proposal will occur later, not at the time of just reviewing the auditor RFP. And then you'll also be reviewing contracts. Those contracts were listed on the board meeting, but you'll see them again in board docs and on the Google Doc. Those were the only differences. It doesn't change the order of the meeting really in any way, just clarifying so that full transparency for you and for the public.
And reconfirming, there are no residents have come in to speak for this meeting, correct? Okay. So, Buildings and Grounds, we have a representative here with us tonight from Murray Insurance to present on builder's risk insurance.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Here at Murray, we are actually Gallagher now. We were still the same company, but just through a name change through acquisition.
Thank you.
So just want to clarify it because it may be a little confusing.
Good to know.
So really, I designed this to be more of a high-level discussion, but certainly if there are questions where you want to dig a little bit deeper on things, don't hesitate. Just if it works for you, you can stop me as I'm going with any questions you may have. So if you want to go to the first slide on really, what is builder's risk insurance, you can think of it very similar to property insurance, where it does insure property. However, it is for new construction projects or renovation projects is when it is purchased, where your traditional property policies are meant for buildings that are already standing. So once again, similar to your traditional property insurance, it will cover materials, fixtures, and equipment. Anything that really goes into a building or during the course of construction of a building. There's two ways it can really be purchased. One is through the building owner. The second way is sometimes contractors will purchase the coverage. Our recommendation really is for the project owner or the building owner to purchase the coverage. A few reasons why. One, it's your property, it's your project as the owner, so you have control of the coverage, the pricing, the terms, everything. In the event of a loss, it's much easier for the insurance company to deal with you directly because it's your policy, versus if it's through a contractor, you kind of have a middle person It can work very well, but it can also slow things down or create some issues because the insurance company's not dealing with you directly, if there were to be a loss. And then it also can be purchased for a single project. That's really the most common way these policies are purchased, but it also can be purchased for a certain period where if you have multiple projects going on, it can be insured on a blanket basis where it would cover all projects during a certain period of time. But like I said, the most common way these policies are written are for a single project. And then the other item that's a little bit different from a traditional property policy, is they're generally written for the duration of the project, where most insurance policies are an annual term. The way builders' risks are, as the underwriters are reviewing all the documents, one of the items they always ask for is a project's schedule, estimated completion date. So when the policies are priced out, it's based on that full term. Now, with that being said, many construction projects are not done on time, so it's very common for these types of policies to be extended where, if we have a certain date we expect it to end and it's another 60 days after, that is not a problem. As you can imagine, it happens all the time. And then why is the coverage needed? I know sometimes there's the thought of we insure our property, why isn't that good enough? And like I said, there's special coverages that are needed while the building is under construction, where your standing buildings that are already done covers the building itself, the contents inside, and then your business income or extra expense coverage, where your standard property insurance will not cover buildings while they are under construction. The other important thing to note is if you can think of a job site, materials are being delivered, they might sit there for a period of time before they're installed in the building. So the builder's risk coverage will insure that property while it's sitting at the job site. Go into that a little bit further on the next slide on, it's even broader than that.
Last month, we received a presentation on something called OSIP. Can you differentiate builder's risk from OSIP? And do you believe that both are needed, or what's the interplay between the two of them?
Sure. Yeah, OSIP is generally a liability coverage. So,
I'm sorry?
The OSIP coverage is generally liability-based. So what that is it covers a construction project for your general liability, workers' compensation, and excess liability for all of the contractors that are on the job site. I believe builder's risk can be wrapped up into that, but generally that's not done. It's just focused on the liability coverages. You probably heard it, the last month if you had that presentations, but it's meant to make the insurance coverages consistent. If there is a claim with a subcontractor or a contractor, you don't have potentially different insurance companies.
Why would we be responsible for insuring a subcontractor?
Well, the subcontractor's on the job site, so they're going to have their own insurance if they start a fire, do something that.
So would that be builder's risk or OSIP?
Well, so liability coverage is designed to cover the contractor's negligence.
Okay. If a subcontractor commits a tort on our property, A, who's liable, and B, would that liability be covered by builder's risk, by the district's existing insurance policies, or by OSIP?
Mr. Keener, this was all answered in the presentation last month. I just pulled up the presentation, and it answers all your questions.
I understand that, Mr. Best. I want to hear what he says.
Okay.
I'm asking these questions for a reason.
Can I suggest
Thank
maybe
you.
that we work through your presentation?
Sure.
And maybe some of it will all be answered, and then we can come back and fill in any blanks that haven't been
This is
answered?
not covered in the presentation. I already looked ahead.
But he might talk about it, so
Okay.
if we can
He
have
may
him
fill it in.
finish.
Let's,
Sure. Yeah, I think we're on the next one. So, what does builder's risk cover? So, direct physical loss to buildings or materials. So, building is in the process of construction. Generally speaking, they're not going to be as stable as a building that's completed. Windstorm comes through, whether it knocks it from scratch or, the construction has to be restarted. It's covered there. Construction materials on the job site. So once again, if it's, weather-related, damages it, theft is possible. It's going to cover all of that. Not always standard, but can be added into the coverages, can cover those materials while they are being transported to the job site. As I said, it's really covers a wide range of perils, very similar to property insurance. So like I said, you can think about the common ones: fire, wind damage. There's weight of snow and ice over the winter time. A lot of the natural occurrences you can think of. A flood and earthquake can also be added. Commonly, they are added. And then the last two items I have on here are just similar, once again, similar to your traditional property insurance. There's a wide range of endorsements where you can broaden coverage from your standard insurance forms. So I pointed out two here that I think are very important to add when we do add, when we do write this coverage, is the hard costs versus soft costs. So your traditional builder's risk policy, standard policies covering, the hard costs. So, that is your, a fire damages the building, wind damage, whatever that may be. But if you think about, you do have that loss, there's a wide range of soft costs then that are, added. So, if construction projects are delayed, there's a loan taken out, additional interest needs to be paid on that loan. That's part of what goes into soft costs. If there is additional permit fees that are needed because something in the project needed to be changed because of the loss, that's picked up under the soft costs. If the architect or engineer needs to redraw plans or, once again, creates additional expense, that's covered under the soft costs. The insurance coverage itself, I think the project may be done on a certain time, but because of a covered loss, it's now a year later, there's additional insurance costs due to that. That can be covered under the soft costs. So, like I said, very, very important that we look to broaden the coverage as much as we can. And then the other last item here is the testing coverage. So, think about a building, brand new construction. Your HVAC system, boilers, electric, all need to be tested, and adding this tested coverage really bridges the gap on when the construction is completed to the handover to the building owner. So, the first time you fire up the boiler, the electrical, if that would, say cause a fire or something like that, that would be picked up under this testing coverage because, generally speaking, with the builder's risk coverage, it's covering buildings during the course of construction. So there's that little bit of gray area where, construction's done, it goes onto the property policy. This testing coverage really bridges that gap of, construction being completed to hand over to the building owner ultimately. So to get back to the question on what's OSIP versus builder's risk, which is a property coverage. It's your OSIP coverage, like I said, is contractor's negligence. I think the best example is,
And that's what I'm getting at, because that sure as heck is what it sounded like last week. And I'm trying to understand why we would pay for insurance to cover someone else's negligence who's not our servant.
Sure. At the end of the day, you're going to pay for it one way or another, to be honest. So what the OSIPs do is all the contractors have, their own workers' comp insurance, general liability insurance, umbrella insurance. When they're bidding a job, they know their costs. So whatever those costs may be are getting built into their bid. With OSIP, it's just the contractor's bid's now going to be lower because they don't need to include their insurance cost if you're purchasing the insurance for the project.
So we should have them bid in the alternative, with or without OSIP coverage.
You can't do that. I did inquire about that, and that's not something that's permitted.
What do you mean it's not permitted?
So there are provisions where they used to be able to do that, and now they're unable to do that. And so I did follow up with Sean, who was here, and asked him about that specifically, and he shared that that is not permissible anymore to be able to do that. So basically,
According to whom?
to the insurance companies that provide, and they're the only ones in Pennsylvania that provide it. So the regulations don't allow for put the bid out with or without. And so you have to decide, do you want the contractors to provide the insurance, or do you want to provide the insurance so it's consistent? That's a question that'll cover all of the workers' comp, any of the contractor negligence, et cetera. What Colin's talking about on the builder's risk side is what we need to purchase outside of our day-to-day insurance that we have with the district. So we have to get builder's risk. It does not cover the contractors, employees, and all of that. So the question's going to come up as we move forward is, we'll get builder's risk and work through that. Does the board want to get an OSIP to ensure there's consistent coverage for our contractors in terms of their negligence and liability, so that if there's an issue, we don't have to, someone doesn't have a lesser kind of insurance that then doesn't either get fixed or they go out of business, they're no longer out, 10 years, 12 years from now with the project? Or do you want to get it on the no-SIP side? So that's a decision that the board's gonna have to make. Do you want to be consistent and pay for insurance with the hope you never have to use it? It's, put the money out up front, or are you going to pay for it in the bid, as Colin said, you're going to pay for it one way or the other? So that's a decision that will come to the board.
I mean, I'll just be as bold as saying, with a project of this size, and with my experience, I think it makes sense for the district to buy the insurance or the OSIP on their own. I know there's an increased cost to that. I'm typically one that will take risk. I don't think it's wise to build it into the project. I think we should have our own insurance for this project and covers us for a lot of things that were mentioned. And that's where I'm at related to it. I think it's worth the cost.
And I'm working on getting more information to be able to get to the board around that piece, so we don't
If you
have to
need a
debate
decision, I
that
know where I'm
today.
at.
It's more just to make sure you understand, as Colin's talking about, we'll have to put out for builder's risk and get that, get those quotes and get that insurance. And then I'll be bringing you more information regarding whether you want to do OSIP or have the contractors get it. So that's to come.
Tonight is really meant just to draw that line between what is builder's risk and what is OSIP, and thank you for describing the builder's risk side of it for us. And again, no decisions need to be made tonight at this time. But does anybody have any further questions on the builder's risk side of things?
I was just going to ask, because of the way we're doing our project with so many phases, and the PAC is getting this, and I don't want to say it's builder's risk. I just see a lot more, like the things you listed, a lot more potential with things being on site and not being used, pre-purchasing things. I know we're going to do things like that, and parts of things being turned off and on and stuff. Is this meant to help with those kinds of projects?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you think, these types of policies are purchased for, small, new residential homes, a couple $100,000 up to $100 million, just massive jobs. So, they're tailored for, the specific job. The one thing I say is I know, cost is always important. This type of project is very appealing to insurance companies. As I kind of alluded to earlier, you think about buildings while they're being constructed, they're not going to be as stable, so wind, things like that can happen. So if you're building a frame apartment building, you're going to pay a lot more per $1 million of building value than you are a school superior construction. So when we go out to get quotes for this project, for this type of insurance, there will be a lot of insurance companies interested in providing a quote, and I think it certainly will. The competition between insurance companies helps gets the lowest rate and the most competitive terms from a coverage standpoint as well.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Best?
So, it sounds like then Gallagher isn't the insurance company, they're the broker?
Correct. So we are the broker that places coverage, and we work with just about every company out there. So like I said, we, on a project of this size, and like I said, this appealing to many companies, we would go out and solicit a lot of quotes just to, like I said, we want to make sure we get the broadest coverage terms at the lowest price is our goal.
And then you mentioned that the insurance is for the duration of the project. As you heard earlier tonight, there is some question about the timeline of this project. And, in my professional capacity, I've seen multiple construction projects go past the date. With that in mind, what is your experience for how, public entities handle those kinds of, do they buy for the expected duration and then top up as needed, or do they maybe estimate a little bit beyond what they hope?
Yeah, I think it's the nature of projects, I feel like, that, a lot of the times, they might go a little bit over. So it's helpful maybe to build in a little bit, maybe 30 days. Like I said, when it comes to pricing, they're generally, we'll just use 2 years for an example, 24-month policy. That's what we think it's going to take. The price is X, and then, if we do need to extend that 30, 60 days, generally then it's going to be prorated based on that 24-month premium for the additional 30, 60 days, whatever it may be. So it's a little bit of a balancing act of, you don't want to overestimate it because you're not going to get money back, but at the same time, you don't want to be too aggressive either and keep having to ask for extensions.
And then are the extensions priced at the original premium?
Yes, they're generally going to be prorated based on that original
So it's not
price.
like the new, like 3 years later, those prices. And then because of the way that we're doing this, how it's primarily going to be during the summer months and then during the school year, it's not, how does that work with the insurance?
No different. So,
like, are we doing multiple 4-month chunks over the
no,
state?
it'll be one policy for the duration. Okay. I will warn you, they ask for a lot of information when they quote these policies. So, one of the items that is always asked for by the underwriters is kind of that project schedule of, what is going to be done at what time. So, they'll be able to see all of that up front.
Okay. And then, does Gallagher provide or go out and look for OSIP or other similar policies that we might be looking for?
We do. We do all types of insurance, yes.
Okay. Yeah, because we were told that OSIP is very limited in Pennsylvania, but if you know that you're able to provide that, then that's good that we can get additional bids.
Would you be getting that OSIP from the same, because there is only one entity in Pennsylvania is what was shared with us.
Well, was it through the PSBA? I thought they had a program, but generally speaking, it's just the larger insurance companies look to provide that coverage. So your, local, like a Donegal, Penn National local, probably not going to provide a coverage like that, but your Chubb insurance, think of the global insurers do provide those projects. And I would say generally speaking, they are purchased for large projects like this. You won't see an OSIP policy purchase for a small project. It's going to be, those couple $100 million projects where you see them acquired.
Any other questions? Mr. Keener?
Thank you. So approximately how much of a premium we be looking at?
I wouldn't even want to guess without knowing, total values, project
About
size.
$228 million.
Like I said, I wouldn't even want to guess.
I guess I'm not sure why you're coming in doing a presentation and
It's
not
an
being able to give
informational
us some
presentation,
prices.
Mr. Keener. He's not selling it to us tonight. It was just information to educate us
Okay.
on how
I mean,
it works.
We have to work through the application process and give all the necessary materials in order to get a quote to be able to bring back.
Like I said, there is a mountain of information that's generally asked for in these.
Okay, and I have another question. So when you do get around to pricing it, are there different prices based on how much risk retention we're willing to do?
Yeah, so it's similar to your property insurance, it's deductible based, so,
Okay.
so as you can imagine.
So we can have a higher deductible and pay a lower premium?
Correct, yeah.
Anything else?
I guess on that note, Mr. Premierski, like, how do you envision these insurance discussions going as far as us being able to decide what we want to do?
Yep. So I'll be getting you more information from the OSIP standpoint versus contractor insurance. That's over here. And then Mrs. Hall will be working with Colin through the builder's risk process to be able to start getting quotes and things brought back for you to look at. And with our history with Murray, now Gallagher, be able to look at what makes the most sense for us. We've been with them for a while, so trying to work through some of those options, and then we'll be able to bring things back to the board. I guess a question would be, once we work through that process, how long from a time frame does it take to be able to get things in, quotes, and what are we looking at?
Yeah, so once again, it's being a larger project, you know, the insurance companies have layers of approvals just because of the size. So, you know, I would say when we have a complete submission, all the information we need, I would think 30 days or less for quotes to come back. You know, there always can be additional questions asked, but roughly, I think that's a good time frame.
So I guess follow up, it sounds like you'll come to us with a recommendation, but I guess could we also get some like alternatives as well, or?
I kind of envision as Mrs. Hall and the team are working through this, that we'll be able to provide you updates and board news based on what we're hearing, and then be able to provide, you know, a presentation, if you will, of here are the choices that we work through, and this is what potentially the cost would be, and as we work through it, these are what we feel are the best options.
Cool.
And we'll be able to get feedback from you as we work through that process.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colin.
Next up, we have representatives, our best friends now, from KCBA, Fidavia, and more, who we see regularly, to give us a update on the PAC electrical project.
Come on in.
So the PAC electrical upgrade project is a couple different pieces in front of you tonight. First is the train pre-purchase, which is for pre-purchase unit of mechanical equipment, which Scott can elaborate on. The other one is a bid package, which is electrical trenching from the existing steam plant, where the existing electrical service comes in for the campus, around down to Kaufman and back up to the PAC in order to supply the PAC, while the new addition would be under construction. So those are the basic parameters of the project. And from there, we can answer questions.
I know I provide you information in board news with the new design in terms of the process. We've talked about this before, but as I alluded to tonight, we have to award bid, or I guess award the bid, and then we'll get a contract that we'll work through in the next couple weeks, approve on May 12th, and that'll be to get that work started. Can you talk a little bit about the time frame and the expectations of starting to finish and what that would mean for the PAC being out of commission and whatnot? And then also on the pre-purchase side, by pre-purchasing, what will happen with the equipment, lead time, and then what also has to happen to make sure that the PAC can be reconnected back November, early December timeframe.
Yeah, November 21st is our timeline to get the PAC back up and running. So we would decommission the PAC this summer once the electric trenching is complete, and we can move the electrical service to that new electrical service. Then we need to be able to install that new mechanical equipment along with gas service, electrical service, and all those pieces to bring the PAC back online. But that November 21st date would be the goal to bring the PAC back online. Any elaboration from colleagues.
I would just add that the train contract, that is a contract that was, that came to us via Moore Engineering. They went out to 3 CoStar companies to get 3 different bids for that pre-purchased equipment. Train came in as the lowest bidder. That was presented back to us, and the recommendation was to go with Train. As opposed to the electrical bidders, that went out to do trenching and so forth. That went out through our RFP. We had 3 contractors that bid on that RFP. That is just what you're seeing tonight is the bid. If we are moving forward with that bid, then we'll have to go back and get the contract, and then the contract will have to be voted on. But the train pre-purchase of equipment can be voted on tonight. There is is it a 17-week?
It's 15 to 17 weeks is what the train quoted me a couple of weeks ago.
So we
That's the current
want to
time.
try and get moving on that, the equipment purchase as soon as possible so that we can get that ordered because of that lead time.
So, real quick, what is the existing HVAC in the pack?
Currently, the HVAC...
Can you use the microphone, please?
I'm sorry. Currently, the HVAC system served by the PAC comes from the power plant that provides steam and chilled water to the building. In order to start the main project, we have to take the PAC offline and provide a different system, which is going to be a packaged DX system with gas heat for the main PAC building. And then we'll add a couple small boilers for all the hot water equipment that's in the building currently.
Okay, so this is purely to separate it from the steam plant?
Correct. It is its own project, and it was broken away because we need the PAC to be able to stand on its own and be for heating and cooling during the time when the new portion or the new building is being built.
So is this a permanent measure then?
Yes.
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 And just a reminder, what is being done with the steam plant? Is that being totally decommissioned?
Yes. Eventually.
By the end of this project?
Yes.
Okay. And then with the electrical upgrade, is that to service the HVAC? Or is that for other reasons?
Yeah, it's combination.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both the unit itself and then additionally to power the PAC because the electrical comes through the construction site.
Got
while
it.
the building
Okay,
will be
so
under construction.
because of where, we'd have to shut off power anyway to start construction, so we need a new service going directly to the PAC. Got it.
And
Thank you.
I might also add that once once the electric is hooked up, there will be an emergency generator, which we will be looking into renting an emergency generator. So that will be able to function as well on its own through an emergency generator if we run into any problems.
But is that only during the project, or is that long-term as well?
That is only during the project part of it. So that will wait until we have a permanent
Okay.
emergency generator.
Just as a point of clarity, for the electrical portion of this, this is only for this part of the job. There will be a bid that would go out for the larger electrical work
Correct.
related to the...
This was a standalone project.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, this actually came about, just to clarify. Originally, this would have been all part of the high school, but as the high school is working through and getting a little bogged down in some approvals related to land development, traffic, in order to have the PAC open for November when you need it, that was the whole point of breaking this out, is to make sure we get that PAC up and running for your November season.
And we
That's
have,
what I recall. Thank you.
and we have permission from the Conservation District to do this outside of the full scope of the project. So all of those permissions have already been obtained.
The base bids that we're looking at here, I think it's $2,350,000 and $1,708,000. Okay, because there's I can't tell if it's a 1 or a comma between the 8 and the 0 on here.
That was about the spread.
So it is 1,708,000?
Yes.
Okay,
For
thank you.
for Farfield,
Thank you.
yes.
And just a question for the administration. We have plans in place for any and everything that would have normally been happening in the PAC during that time?
We are going to have to say no to things when it's closed, but part of the reason of getting it done is because a lot of our events then starting to take place in December with concerts and all the way through the spring with musical, dance theater, and other concerts and events, they'll be back up and running for that. So this summer through November, it'll be offline, and any groups that have used it or whatnot, they can't. We've been letting them know that already, well in advance, so it's not a surprise. So all of that kind of has already been happening.
And thinking about just our staff and students who use same there, like we have all that covered.
Yeah, once we kick off this project, it's going to be a good reminder for everyone about we won't be able to do all the things we used to be able to do in the spaces we used to be able to do it. We're going to have to take more time to plan more ahead of time to be ready for a potential change of location and or alternative means of egress and or what's really available from a system standpoint. So this is kind of the start of the journey.
Patience and flexibility is our goal. Anything else?
I will add, because there is another component we're working on. So this pack that you're looking at and you're voting on, this is only a portion of the work required for PAC that has to get started. The rest of it is within the high school plan right now. There's some structural work, there's piping work as related to this. We are looking at breaking that out in the event that the high school project continues its slow progress. We are looking at breaking the remaining work out required to complete the PAC and bringing that to you, if needed, probably next month for review. But just to let you know, there is the possibility we may have to scramble, break the rest of the work out required for the PAC, and look at doing this kind of all over again to finish that separately.
I appreciate the foresight. Thank you.
In that case, if that were the case, and we hope it's not, is that work that needs to be done prior to November 21st as well, or is that something that could go into next summer?
Yes, it would need to be done to have the PAC open in November as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Just clarification, so we're getting a whole new electrical service in the PAC, is that correct?
Yes,
So, and that's including a transformer then?
that's correct.
Okay, so then, are we agreeing to both of the alternates, or are we not? Are we doing one versus the other? What exactly are we agreeing to do on this with Fairfield?
You're talking about the unclassified
The Fairfield.
and the aluminum?
Transformer, yeah.
Do you want to speak to the aluminum?
I can speak to the aluminum. I was talking to our electrical engineer earlier today, and he said because this is medium voltage power we're talking about, if a utility installed today would be using aluminum conductors, so his recommendation was to accept that offer.
Yeah, anything above a certain size, they do aluminum. I don't like aluminum. It also has a bigger voltage drop, but I'm in a specialty field where that actually matters more.
Yeah, understood. We usually offer it as, because it's sized a little different and so on and so forth. We offer it as a value engineering option.
Yeah, I mean, it's cheaper. Sometimes you have to go to a bigger size, but
Question on that second piece with the alternative, the unclassified component, there's a significant cost difference between the two companies.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just start with, so the way we set up the high school, and this is how Fidavia, I believe KCBA, but this is how Fidavia approaches projects. Typically, we do a base bid as what's called classified, and then we put unit prices and allowances in. What classified means is that if they encounter rock or unsuitable soils, then the district would pay to have that removed based on those unit prices and allowances. It does put the burden on the district for anything that is encountered. And from our geotech reports, it is very likely we're going to encounter some. Now, unclassified, it's kind of an insurance policy, and you're flipping the responsibility. With unclassified, you're saying, okay, contractor, you take the risk. You take all the risk. Whatever you find down to the bottom of footings, you own. So that's that ad you see for unclassified. In this particular case, I think we would agree, we would recommend strongly leaning towards unclassified, because the geotech report definitely shows some rock in areas that's going to be encountered, and the depths of this, because of existing utilities, there are periods along the trail of this electric line that's going to have to be put in 12-foot deep to go under existing utilities. So the cost for rock could add up significantly.
So I just want to make sure, 60,000 versus 528,000.
Well, again, everybody looks at it a little different, and they'll often gamble. You know, somebody who really wants the job, like being in that industry, you'll go really lean. You'll say, okay, I think we're only going to hit it here, where this, and another guy wants to cover himself.
Or the other guy really wants you to say no to the unclassified.
That as well. Sometimes site contractors do not want to do it unclassified, so they put the price way up here.
And then if you do it, they're like, oh, well, great, that's a lot of extra money that I wasn't really banking on, but.
So the way this will work, because we don't have the contract tonight, we're just awarding it, we get the contract back. Is it a piece where we check a box that this is what we want, or do we have to let them know up front so they can generate the contract that way?
Well, and we can help you with that, but we would put forth, like, we would let them know the district is going to approve your contract and, you know, alternate 1, alternate 2 for these items, yeah.
So in that case, I would suggest and recommend that we do
I
that.
I would lean towards both,
Yep.
even though I don't like aluminum. Also, I just looked at it, the 60K, although that seems like a lot, is only 3.5% of the contract price, or of the base price, so it seems like really cheap insurance.
Yes.
Any further questions? Okay, and that was, we were just updating there.
That's just
Right,
updating,
okay.
correct.
Make sure we're on the right thing here. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Safe travels back. Next, we have Mrs. James to present on our playground project for the summer 2026 work.
Good evening. So as we had talked about before, we had put 3 playgrounds and some other items out on RFP. We worked in conjunction with a representative from ELA. If you recall, we had to do some surveying. We did some surveying of curbing prior to moving forward on the RFP. The curbing surveyed that everything was fine. It was all at the correct pitches and everything, so they didn't suggest that we needed to do anything with the curbing. The only possible item that we may need to correct with the curbing, if there's any, when they clear off all of the curbing, they would, if there's any cracks or chips, then that would be replaced. But the overall curbing was able to be remaining. So the bid went, or the RFP went out on Penn Bid, and I have a recommendation from ELA that we move forward with. When this went out to Penn Bid, we had a pre-bid meeting. There were 3 companies that attended the pre-bid meeting. Unfortunately, only one of those 3 companies submitted a bid for this project. I don't know the reasoning for that. I don't know, what their thought process was. Was it timing? I don't know. But we have one contractor that submitted a bid. So what you're going to see here is the overall base bid is for the work to be done on the Farmdale, East Pete, and Landisville Intermediate Center playgrounds. We would be removing the rubber mulch on all 3 of these playgrounds. We would have asphalt work done at Farmdale and the Intermediate Center. They would be removing all of the asphalt and replacing that asphalt. We would have any cracked curbing, as I mentioned, we would have any cracked curbing replaced, broken curbing replaced. It would be replaced with the poured-in-place playground, and then on the 2 playgrounds that had the asphalt removed, we would have the paintings returned to those playgrounds. And that's the base bid. So what you're going to see here is you see the base bid of the $1,125,240. That amount does include all of those allowances that you see there. Those allowances are built in there in the event that when the work is being done and we run into some problems, unforeseen problems, something's dug up, they need to dig further, they need to add more aggregate, whatever the case may be. We have allowances in there for any overages that they may run into. That way, if I don't have to come back to all of you with a change order during the project, halting the project that we're already on a very short timeline on, a very tight timeline on. So those are at, that 130,000 is already added into what you're seeing there as the 1,125,240. We may not need any of those, in which case that wouldn't be part of the end amount. We may not need any of them, but we may need some of them. We just don't know that. Next. Right, we would get a credit change order in the event that we didn't need those. What you see here is there are 2 alternates. The first alternate is for the Landisville Primary Center, the kindergarten playground. If you recall, the main playground on that at the primary center has already been redone, new structures, new poured in place. This is at the front of their building. This is their kindergarten playground. The structure is fine, but the macadam around, they have wood mulch around the structure, and then they have macadam. The macadam is coming and cracking, and it's becoming uneven and so forth. It's caused by some roots from some trees that are there. We'd have to have some of those trees removed so that would not happen again. That macadam needs to be torn out, the wood mulch needs to be torn out, and new curbing would need to be put in. There would be poured in place, put down there, and then there would be new macadam put back in place in that playground. The second alternate is for Centerville Elementary School, and that would be to seal coat the macadam portion of their playground. And that would also include painting of that playground after it's seal coated. The principal at Centerville Elementary is working on the possibility of a donation of that painting, in which case the amount of the painting, you'll see down below, there's a deduct of $6,930. That would be deducted from the $11,789 because the contract would not be doing the painting. It could possibly be donated by someone. So that would not be included. If you decide to not go with the poured in place option, which was part of the base bid, if you decide to return to the rubber mulch that exists there already, as I had mentioned to you previously, that rubber mulch that exists there has to come out, the aggregate still has to come out, and all of that has to be redone. So if you were to decide to not do the poured in place, then the $299,771 would be also a deduct from that original base bid. What you're seeing below here is just the amounts that are charged as part of the bid for the different types of sealants, aggregates, mulch, whatever the case may be. You're just getting an overall price for each tonnage of those. Okay. So here I've just outlined again what would be done at Landisville Primary Center and what would be done at Centerville Elementary School. As I had mentioned, I do have a letter to Mrs. Hall to recommend all of the projects to be done by this bidder. The bidder is SLC. I've not worked with them in the past, so they would be new to me. But they would to move forward with using them for the poured in place surface as what's described in the base bids. Excuse me.
And would they do the mulch if we go with mulch as well?
Correct.
Does anybody have any questions?
So I just came up
Okay.
here on the last slide. What I did was I took the base bid, I added in the two alternates to come up with the $1,246,993. That would be worst case scenario. That is with all of those allowances being used in full. That would be the worst case scenario in this project.
Yeah, this would be this is the last pieces of the phase.
Can you use your microphone, please?
Sorry.
We have people listening in.
No problem, thank you. Sure, you're welcome. Chris Selmer with Fidavia. So this would be the last piece of the current phase for the capital plan before we go into the next phase for next summer. When I did the aggregate of the budget and where we are after phase 1 and phase 2, if you recall, phase 1, we did very well. We were well under budget. Phase 2, we're doing the LPC. We took the alternate for the lighting. Even if you add all this in, worst case scenario, that all those allowances are used, you do the pour and play, I still have you with about $250,000 to the good after those two phases heading into the next phase. So just from a financial perspective, just gives you kind of where you are as you're making the decision. So between phase 1 and 2, it's performed in combination under budget if you look at the budget tracker and where we are going into the next phase. So figured that'd be important as you're deliberating and thinking about the decision. So thank you.
Absolutely. Good information, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Does that also include I just pulled up the phase 2, the water heater replacement, some of these other things that were completely out of...
It does, yes. So that's all calculated, because if you recall, we did budgeted, and then we put a column in there, so when things went from budget to actual. So if you look at phase 2, thank you, I believe it's up on the screen. You can see, if you page down, where we have the green there, just up a little bit. So you'll see, actually we're about 425 to the good. 263 is a construction contingency that's in there for the LPC project. So if you recall, you awarded those bids. We added in a contingency, obviously, when you're talking about pre-existing, construction and what's happening there. So essentially, if things go well, you could even be better than what we have projected currently. Just going to depend on how that project goes through the summer into the fall. So, but again, I just want to demonstrate after two phases, it's performed well from a budgeting perspective. So.
And just before they jump into the playground discussion piece, just to make sure from a clarity standpoint, the base bid is 1.125240 for the playground. And would the thinking be correct that instead of poured and play, do rubber mulch, then you would subtract out about $300,000, $299,771. And if you divide that out by the three buildings, you're talking a differential of $100,000
per building.
Total.
Yeah.
Per building, yeah. I mean, just cost per building.
Cost per building, yeah.
The difference is $100,000. When you look at, and what's the warranty of a port and play? Is it 10 years?
No, I think you're thinking of the life expectancy.
Or life expectancy.
I'm sorry, yeah, the life expectancy, that's what you're thinking of there, yeah. But we've already gone past that for the playground that we have, the poured in place playground that we have at the high school.
Right.
For the preschool, we've already surpassed that, so.
Yeah. So that differential is very small when you look at over a 10, 12, 15-year period. It's where, just from a discussion standpoint, just to make sure my thinking was correct and that the board had that awareness.
Yes.
Great.
Anthony, any questions? Yes, Director Linton.
Yeah, I just have just to clarify, on slide 4, when we're looking at the alternative with the LPC playground placement, that includes the cost for all the tree work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, they identified the trees that were the problem, and they already, that's in the cost.
Okay. Anybody else have questions or clarifications that are needed?
Pardon me?
Does anybody else have clarifications that they would like from Mrs. James, Mr. Selmer?
So, I think what would be helpful is, can we just see, I like how you phrased, Mrs. James, worst case, best case. Can we see a worst case and best case scenario for each of the three options? Wood mulch, rubber mulch, and pour and play.
Okay, I do not have a wood mulch.
Okay, I thought we had talked about that.
I did not think that there was a concession, or that
Consensus.
everybody agreed,
Yeah.
consensus, that
Yeah.
everybody agreed that that was,
I don't
that
think
we
we've done
wanted that.
consensus on anything yet.
No, that
We
we
haven't made
wanted
any
that
decisions.
as a bid.
Right. I don't believe.
guess-
I don't think there was broad support for wood mulch.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I don't
I
think.
don't think there was broad support for wood mulch
Okay,
around
I
the
didn't
table.
hear support for any of the three. We're very much in the information gathering stage, and until we have comprehensive information, I'm not sure how this board can do its job. I mean, we're getting cherry-picked information that's designed to push us towards a predetermined outcome.
I would,
It's not a
We've
cherry.
seen this
I would
for-
disagree that I think Mrs. James has been coming to us over the last couple of months, giving us these presentations to gauge our interests and
Okay.
where the board is looking to go with this. She's come back with several options here, what the administration is recommending. And I think
Yes.
that we're here to discuss it. I appreciate.
your perspective, Mrs.
I
Christie.
appreciate your interest in the wood mulch, but I think the conversations we've had in the past like this with Mrs. James here is, it didn't sound like there were others that were too interested in pursuing the wood mulch further to put her through that extra work at this point. If anybody I know Mr. Keener feels differently, but does anybody else, am I misrepresenting that at all?
No, in fact, I'm opposed to looking at wood mulch as an option.
Yeah, I honestly am opposed to it as well. I just don't think that's the direction we should be going.
So I'd ask then, once again, we are going for expensive alternatives, which is fine, that's the prerogative of this board. What are we going to give up to pay for this extra cost? What is the recommendation? Where are we going to find this extra money
Mr.
to
Keener?
go with this Cadillac plan of playground?
I'd like to just say that I think Mr. Selmer put it very well, that we are operating within the anticipated budget for all of the projects that we've set forth as needed in Plan 1. Now we're finishing up Round 2, and we're coming in under budget overall for all of those things. So at this point, I don't think it's a fair assumption to say that we're going to have to give things up within our projections at this point.
We can only spend the dollar once.
I see where you're coming from, Mr. Keener, and I don't totally disagree with your philosophy. I just think it's short-sighted in this case, not being unkind to anybody that would be a support of wood mulch, but I think it's short-sighted on a couple fronts. Not just, and I know it's not a huge safety risk. I mean, I grew up with that, and I'm still alive today. I get it, but at the end of the day, it really isn't the way of the future when it comes to playgrounds. I really believe that if we're looking long-term, that spend is worth its weight in gold. You put wood mulch in there, you're going to be dealing with that every year in managing that. There's labor involved in that. We haven't factored all of that in. And I think that's where, if you look at a 10-year plan, you're actually going to come out at the same place at the end of the day if you figure up what it's going to cost the maintenance to manage that wood mulch. So I'm thinking more long-term as an investment than I am short-term cost.
Mr. Bomerski, I think you wanted to chime in there?
So, Mr. Keener, your question, and what was alluded to, in terms of the facility plan, we have the money built in, and the money's been set aside already for improvements. So we had playgrounds already articulated, and this was a plan that was accepted by the board, so that is built in there. And when you look at the other question you asked, if you take the base bid price and you deduct the installation for the rubber mulch compared to the pour and play, and you deduct the removal of the paint markings at Centerville, you don't have to do that or not, but just say you go there, you're taking out the deductions, it's $933,992. Worst, that's the best case scenario. based on what's here, whether you do pour and play, it's a little higher, that's on rubber mulch. If you want to do pour and play, base 1125. If you do all of it that's here, as Mrs. James shared, in terms of worst case scenario, you are at 124. So in the range of 933,000 to 1.24 million. So that's the
Is that
range of
correct,
best
Mrs.
to worst.
Okay.
So that answers that question.
And wasn't the painting completed? I believe another elementary school had maybe the PTO. I mean, so it's
Yes,
something.
that was East Petersburg
Yeah.
Elementary.
So this is something that,
Could happen.
yeah.
Right.
Great.
I just did the total deduct, not saying we should deduct that, but if you look at just focusing on the mulch side of things, it's 933,000. It's a very low number. It's $3,000 in the grand scheme of that piece. So you're at a little over 302,000 that you would have it as a deduct. So if you just go to the 300,000, then it's 931,000 to 1.24 million. That's the span.
That's your spread.
And we have that in our plan that the board accepted.
So a couple points that, well, one I wanted to make in agreement with Mr. Wolgemuth is, maybe dollar-wise, it may end up being cheaper long run, but when you add in all the maintenance labor, even if you take in their salary and benefits and everything, it may end up being cheaper. But now you're adding more workload onto them, which means we probably need more people, which is, obviously added cost and added burden. One thing with this discussion, I feel like I've been torn on this, whether to go with rubber mulch or poured in place. Even though I'm very much would like the poured in place, but it is $300,000, and $300,000 is money we could put somewhere else. It's not that, yes, it's budgeted. We would be under budget still, to his point, which is great, but could we put that somewhere else? Yes. So I feel that in these discussions, when Mrs. James has come, the only three who've really voiced strong opinions are myself, Mr. Wolgemuth, and Mr. Keener. I'd like to hear from any of the other board members to see which way are they leaning, what things are they concerned about, because I feel like we're
If I could just add one thing before that. So with the rubber mulch, we do need to take into consideration the amount of time and manual labor to keep it in its place. And that is why we've gotten into the place that we are right now with the rubber mulch, because we can't possibly keep it in its place. As I believe Mr. Best mentioned, it's going home in his children's shoes. So that is, he is not the only one. So that becomes a cost involved as well.
Yeah, and so, and to Mr. Bramirski's point, it's $100,000 per building. Over 10 years, that's $10,000. Would we be spending that much?
On the mulch.
Potentially, yes, possibly no. Again, it's whether or not it's worth the investment.
And Mr. Best, to your point, LIC, one of the buildings we're talking about, the slope of that playground goes towards the grass the opposite way. At East Pete, the slope goes towards the playground. And so that's where the mulch is coming towards at East Pete. That's got to get back, and that's why it's all over the playground. But at LIC, it's into the grass, and it's hard to rake it out of the grass to get it back up. So now you're losing the fall zone that you're supposed to have, and it gets all...
And probably damaging machinery trying to mow the lawn.
Plus exposing the underlayment.
Yeah.
That gets torn, and then you have to start all over.
Oh, go ahead. No.
I mean, my opinion is I appreciate the long-term planning and kind of the foresight that this board is discussing instead of just the cheapest alternative right now, because I think those occurring costs over the years are something that aren't talked about enough, and I'm glad that's being talked about, so I'm happy with the pour and play.
Ms. Director Linton?
When I think about all of the differences between rubber mulch and pour and play, I continually come back to accessibility. For our students, for our staff, for our parents, for our visitors. It is much easier to have folks of all abilities on pour and place playground than it is on any type of mulch.
Thank you very much for bringing that up. I completely agree with you. Anything else you want to say before I move on?
That, I was going
Ms.
to weigh
Ms.
in.
Small? Yeah.
I was going to weigh in on that same issue, that I was definitely looking to see, like, where was I on this, and the more, you know, and the additional expense was, you know, a barrier for me, but I think the accessibility piece of it, and the fact that we're now down to just $300,000, I mean, again, nothing to sneeze at, but across the 3 buildings, to me, I feel like the accessibility benefits lead me to Port and Play as well. And the long-term benefit. I mean, I know we've talked about the extended, life of it, but I think we've gotten more out of it than we anticipated initially, so.
Correct. Mrs. James, could you speak to the, I want to say like the weather ability, or how they respond to weather differently as far as rain and puddling and things like that?
So it does have absorbency. So when you're talking about rain and things like that, it does absorb that, just like any other surface would have. So that really isn't, rain is not an issue. It is in as far as when we're talking about snow, we cannot shovel or use any sort of equipment or ice melt on that poured in place surface. However, it does melt much quicker than on that poured in place surface than it does on any of the other surfaces, simply because of the type of surface it is.
Are you able to use any of those things on the rubber mulch?
No.
Okay, so
no,
they're equal in
correct.
that sense.
We cannot use them there either. I mean, I guess we could use ice melt, but we don't. That doesn't make it any, it doesn't make it any better.
So snow melting or ice melt, they're equal, but the poured and play melts faster?
It melts faster,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And as far as rain and puddling, is there any difference between them?
No.
Okay.
No. If anything, I would say in the situation we're in right now, when it rains and it puddles, there's mud.
With the mulch?
With the mulch,
With
yes.
the way it's
The way it
mixed
is right
up.
now,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, very good. Mr. Keener, you have more questions?
I
Yeah.
just want to say, I hear what my colleagues are saying, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. This is a classic case of this board always wanting to take the easiest and usually most expensive outcome. We've had discussions about not filling faculty positions. We had a great discussion 2 weeks ago about how we're going to staff full-day kindergarten, and do we want 2 teachers, or aides, or 3 teachers, and 5 aides. What this board is saying is, poured and play is more important than 2 teachers and an aide. That's what they're saying. That's what I'm hearing. Because
I
we are
disagree.
so into the latest, sexiest, most expensive playground surface. That's more important than the core educational enterprise. We could take that $300,000 and we could get a few more teachers. We could get a few more aides. And that's not what we're doing.
I will say that this is in our capital
Yeah, this is capital. You
capital
can't.
money. We can't
Yeah,
move
but,
it back.
Okay, both of you know that that's a straw man argument, because this board, with a simple vote, can move money around, and all of us know that.
I think you have to, I agree with you, money is money, but when you look at a project like this and you look long-term, you can take the cheap route and then you can spend the money over the course of 10 years, or you can go the route that you get something that lasts a little bit longer. And at the end of the day, it's not the gift that keeps on giving financially. When you look at operational costs and expenses, they are different when you're talking about personnel than a capital budget. I don't look at them quite the same, even though I agree it is still funds. So I fundamentally somewhat disagree with you, but understand where you're coming from.
I also want to just remind everyone that we did borrow specific money for capital projects. And so that money needs to get spent in that realm. So I hear that money is money, but we do also have set aside money that needs to be spent on capital projects, which we have approved.
The one-time cost for a project like this are pennies on the dollar, not to get it compared to the ongoing cost of having too many staff. And again, I'm not taking sides on this, but I can tell you too many staff and misuse of that money cost this district a whole lot more than a one-time capital project. for a playground.
All right, I think I haven't heard from Mr. Williams yet. Do you have any strong feelings either way?
I'm with the port in place due to accessibility.
Okay, thank you. All right. Mrs. James, do you have what you need? Do you need to hear more from us? Is there?
So we'll bring this forward in May for a vote.
For the vote?
To
Yeah.
approve it and
Yeah.
then move forward.
So,
Yeah.
so it sounds like the direction is that we don't,
So when will we be voting on this?
In May.
In May, thank you.
Okay, I think we're good, right?
Yep.
All right, thank you. I think we just have to take a
Hold on that. And we can
Just
do-
1 second, please.
We can move to finance budget update and
Okay.
auditor.
Okay,
report.
For the soil testing, and while Mr. Michael is still here, I would like for him to speak
To
to that,
speak to
even though
it,
we're not going to
okay.
vote on it.
Sure,
at this
sure,
point.
okay. Let me make sure we're in the right place, soil testing. So, yeah, we're going to look at the number 4 on your agenda, the soil testing. We will not vote on this right now, but we'll just have the information on it at this point.
So what's before you is what we call a Phase 1 study. So the high school is ultimately what we call an export site. That means that ultimately more dirt leaves than what comes in. And that soil, when it leaves, has to have what they call a clean fill certification. That is a must-have. And in order to have that, there's a series of steps we have to do. The first step is this Phase 1 ESA that's before you for $5,000. Essentially, they do a historic study of the site as far back as records go. And that kind of will give them an idea, do we have anything to worry about? Before it was a school, was it just woods? Or maybe, did they make batteries here? Did they make pesticides here at the turn of the century? And depending on those findings, then they will come back and they may recommend some actual soil tests, especially if it, like long-term agriculture, can have additional arsenic in it. There are areas of Pennsylvania, naturally occurring lead is above the DEP limits. We want to know this now. I mean, we need to get a clean fill cert, but we also want to know this now. We do not want to go under contract and then have to pay contractors a change order to pay for unregulated soil, which could easily be well into the 6 figures. So, but this first step is the only step that we're taking now. This is the Phase 1 ESA for $5,000, and then within about a month, they will come back with any recommendations saying, hey, it was this, it was that, we recommend some actual soil samples to test for whatever they suspect. And then they'll come with would depend on how many samples they need to take, but they will come with, at that time, with an additional cost for that. But we do need to keep the high school on track, we do need to just take this first step towards getting that clean fill cert.
I did have a question for you on this, and I'm trying to scroll through the document right now to find the place for it. On page 3, it mentions a lump sum basis for the fee of $5,000, and then I think it was page 7. Yeah, on page 7, the box under 6.1, the lump sum box isn't checked, but the time and materials box, not to exceed 5,000, is checked. So I just wanted to check the.
And I apologize, I don't have it in front of me. I mean, we did review it overall. Originally, they gave a very long document with all the pricing for all the different types of testing, and we were like, can you just, let's baby step this one at a time, because we don't even know if we need all that.
Yeah.
So we can look into that and just make sure, but,
Yeah.
we do this on every single project.
Sure.
I mean, this is mandated, so I know that it's just the 5,000 is the only
Right, it does
upfront.
say not to exceed the sum of
Yes.
5,000. I just wanted to make sure on that one. Okay.
The question was asked regarding soil testing that was done previously in the beginning of the project and so forth. That's, soil testing was done for compaction. So that was necessary information that they needed to know for foundation and things like that, and footers and things like that. This is different than that.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions on soil study? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And then I think we will move ahead to the budget update presentation from Mrs. Hall. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Best, I overstepped you there.
Don't, it's
You're in
fine.
charge now, go.
All right, so we have an update for you, as I promised last month. You can move to the next slide. So the far right column is what you want to look at. That is our current state of the budget today. We have reduced the increase below the index, barely. In its current state, we are sitting at a shortfall of a 4.03% tax increase, because this is done without any increase to the tax rate or to basic ed, special ed, or adequacy funding. So it's flat funded for all the state funding, and it's based on our current millage rate today. So that leaves us at a $3.9 million shortfall in the current budget. And I'll talk about what changed these numbers over the last month as we've gone through the budget. Next slide. This is just a reminder. Index is 4.1. 4.1 gets you about $4 million. And the average household tax bill will increase by $156 if you go to a 4.1% increase. Next slide. So what changed these numbers quite a bit in the revenue is we received, after the last meeting, updated taxable assessment values from the county, which, when we calculate it based upon our current rate, increases our revenue by a little over $800,000. So that is really good news for us, that our taxable assessed values are up. We also took a look at our current year-to-date performance on transfer tax and on EIT, and in both cases, we were able to move those up as well based upon the trends that we've seen this year and historically. So that put some more money on the revenue side to offset some of the additional expenditures. Next slide. So that's just a picture of the total revenue, that it has increased a little over $1 million, 1.3-ish since last month. Next slide. Now we've gone through our expenditures. And I'll talk about what we've added in here. We really just went through each of the lines to make sure, one, things were accurate, nothing was missed. We also looked at places that were historically underspent and said, like, what can we cut back? What aren't we using on a regular basis that are just in there just in case? So we spent a lot of time, everyone was involved, going through each of these lines, just, what can we cut? What's a really realistic number to kind of fine tune these? Next slide. It's just going to give you the breakout, which hasn't really changed too much from the March presentation. We're still sitting at roughly 70% wages and benefits, and then all the other pieces are about the same as they were. Next slide. In terms of what we reduced, as I spoke about, we reduced accounts that have historically been underspent. We looked at the building expenses for each of supplies and such, what the historical trends have been, and kind of, leveled those off. Worked with Dr. Dandridge to equalize book budgets for elementary schools. Some had much higher budgets, some had much lower. We would like for them all to be equivalent, so we changed those a little bit. And then we looked at our printing and binding costs for some of the operational departments, not for the buildings, and where we could reduce those based upon historical spend. Next slide. Then there are additions. We had to take a look at our charter school enrollment, and that has increased by about 25 students since the last budget process. We also implemented some of the additional costs for full-day kindergarten, adding a class to each building, which would be supplies and the additional transportation costs, as well as the addition of junior high girls volleyball and wrestling programs that were approved back in March. Next. So this is where we are sitting today with a 4.1% index. We are sitting at a 2.42 to balance the budget, and then 1.61 for the debt service commitment for the high school project, which leaves a 0.07 taxing authority remaining. Next. Same slides we had last month, just to give you an idea of where we've been in relation to the index since 1718. Next slide is just the millage rates by the county. That hasn't changed because I don't know what anyone's final tax increase is going to be in the county yet. We haven't actually had that discussion yet, but we will. Next. Again, tax increase scenarios. If we were to do a tax increase 1, 2, 3, or up to 4.1, what that looks like for the median household. And then Mr. Bomerski and I have been talking a little bit about budgetary reserve. We removed the budgetary reserve that had been in for many years at about $1 million that we never used. Now that we've kind of fine-tuned and reduced a lot of places we could, it's something we would like to reinstate should we have unexpected expenses. There's a couple ways we could do that. We could go to the index, and that .07 could go into budgetary reserve. We could, designate some additional unpredictable revenue sources to that. If we get more in interest income, EIT, transfer tax, maybe that goes into budgetary reserve. Or we look at further expenditure reductions or reallocating some of the things that we think maybe won't be spent over to the budgetary reserve.
Yeah, one of the things, we thought we were going to be able to do it, and I know that I shared that with the board, and as Mrs. Hall and the team were working through things, there were some other expenditures that needed to go up, just based on looking at historical spend. So where we were able to save, where we thought we were going to do that, we were not able to because some additional increases, particularly on the cyber side of things, as well as some components in terms of special education, outside placements, and then some personnel items as we're looking through, trying to figure out, making sure we have the right positions accounted for, all of that. And so those are the pieces that we just wanted to bring back and talk through. If there is an interest or desire to do that. If we don't have that, it'll come out of general fund if we are short.
It'll come out of fund balance.
Or fund balance, sorry.
Mm-hmm. So just wanted to put that on there. We moved on. Okay. So I don't know if anyone had questions before we got to this slide, but what I really need guidance on at this point, because we are going to adopt a resolution to display and advertise a final budget in May 12th. I mean, obviously it can change before we approve it in June, but I want to have some idea what the tax increase is going to look like, and then where, if we have a shortfall, is that coming out of fund balance? Are we looking for further reductions? I just need a little guidance here as we kind of head towards the finish line here, because we only have so much time to get this approved.
Would anybody like to start with questions or comments on that?
I have a,
Go ahead.
so on that last.
I did it again, I'm sorry.
That's fine. You can run the rest of the meeting. That's, one of the items you mentioned was if we want to do that.
Budgetary reserve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to come up with
I
words
should've let
that
you.
weren't as nice. But for the reserve, one of the items was potentially trying to cut back on other areas. With all the work you've already done, right-sizing, because it's not really cutting, it's right-sizing based on historical trends. How confident are you that you can find an extra $500,000 somewhere?
Not very.
Okay.
And it is a process. Like, we are always looking through lines, but we do have 6,200 accounts to look through. So it's a process. I can't say that I looked at every single account, but we looked at all the ones where we could find trends. The likelihood of finding 500,000?
Well, I mean, I could say that, say, lines.
Could you use the microphones, please?
I could say that lines that were $1,000 down to 500 that had $0 spent, maybe we could get $100,000, but it's very time intensive to kind of go through that and look historically.
Yeah,
through
understood.
that. But it's something that we do need to do over time.
We had it until we saw some cyber charter increases.
Oh, we were good.
Yeah, we had it, but.
It was good news, bad news.
Well, because in that info session you gave us, it showed that we could do that, but was that presentation also taking into account the additional full-day K costs?
No.
Yeah, so the fact is that I love that we're able to still do the added full-day K, come in without having to go up to the index, although we're coming really close. That .07 is like an extra, like 100,000, maybe? No, not even that.
No,
Yeah.
it's really small.
Yeah, we added back in, like, transportation, as Mrs. Hall noted, for full-day K, there's
About
some increase there.
138,000.
Increase in terms of some of the cyber piece, and the third one that was on the slide, on some of the special ed placements. So it just went away. We have it, but it went away. But we'll keep looking as we continue working through the lines. We just wanted to bring it back because it was something we talked about, and there seemed to be potential support moving in that direction if we can get there. But
Is that something that can be shall I call it a wish list item, that when the extra funds come, if we get the extra funds from the state that we are not budgeting for, it can just happen at that time, and we can direct the funds
right, and if
to
we
that.
don't need it by the end of the year, then it still moves anyways.
Correct.
Well, I'm just going to put my thoughts out there using Mint's words. I've watched our trends over the last 3 years, and we've averaged a 3.17% increase over the last 3 years. We've been able to balance our budget. I'm a firm believer that steady wins the race when it comes to tax increases, and I don't believe we need to go to the index this year, because I'm also a believer we need to make sure that we're putting appropriate emphasis on what I would call return on our investment, which is our operating expenses. And so I know the district's been doing that. I'm not being critical in any way, but I think that needs to continue. And I'm not willing to go to the index. I'm going to land between about 2.5 and 3% on average moving forward, and I would suggest that we stay steady with that. I believe that the district will be able to be okay with the projects and the things that they have related to that. I'm not in favor of taking people to the 4.1 this year, and that's where I've landed after analyzing the finances, taking a look at some of the shortfalls, expecting no increase, and also expecting we continue to emphasize the need to be efficient and not just spend on everything. And I know Mr. Keener is going to come back to me regarding the playground, but again, I do see that a little bit different than our operational expenses. And I don't put that in the same bucket as a decision when it comes to taxes like this.
So, forgive me, are we trying to come up with a sense for what we want the increase to be?
I think
Yes,
The goal
yes.
tonight.
A sense.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Well, I mean, I need to
No,
file
I
a final
get it. I
budget
just
at some
wanted to
point.
make sure
Yeah.
I didn't,
Yeah.
Just to clarify, the debt service commitment in your table, that's it, right? Like, we don't have additional millage in 31, 32?
That's the full extent of it, yeah.
Cool. I guess my concern with Mr. Woldemuth's number is because of the fact that, with a 1.55 average percent for the debt service, at a 2.5, that gives us less than 1%, which is not even going to cover the CBA. So I feel like as much as, it'd be nice to go below the index this year, I think building in that millage for these upcoming years that are going to be a little bit more slim is going to be needed.
I would suggest that that's why this board, prior to some of your time on the board, and most of your time on the board, set some dollars aside so that we can begin to offset that millage by drawing from that slowly over time. And also, when you do a building project, that doesn't all come in at the same time. It comes in over the course of the next, 4 to 5, 6 years during the project. So the idea is to draw from that so you don't have a spike in taxes. That's why we pushed those numbers probably further than we needed to, taking some criticism for setting money aside during those last 3 to 4 years. That's designed to be a savings that you do a slow draw from to hold the line on taxes.
Mrs. Hall, could you speak to that a little bit? Because I'm under a different impression, so I'd like to
So
understand
I'm
that
not sure I
thinking a little bit
totally
more.
follow. We have put aside money to build in for the millage, for the debt service payments, starting with the 2025. So this is the third year of that.
Right.
And it spans 7 years. So I mean,
And we're
that's, but,
committed to continuing to pay
yeah,
on
the
that
plan
debt
is that a
service.
certain amount has to go in each year, so when the debt service does come on,
Yes.
that we have the funds for it.
Right.
And we're not drawing from that yet, but we're putting money in. It's like sticking money in your savings account, knowing that when that project, the
Right.
sunroom comes along,
So-
you're going to start to draw from that to pay those
But
bills.
So we've been putting that money in capital, But this coming budget year, 26, 27, we'll start seeing an increased debt service payment. So a lot of what we've been putting aside is going directly to debt service next year. There'll still be a portion of it that goes to capital while we wait to take on the rest of the debt. But, I mean, we have put it aside and put it in capital, so it's set aside, so it's not being spent on other things. So it's there for debt service, but some of that does come on in 26, 27.
Yeah. Understood.
And your projections, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but for the coming years where that Act 1 index is lower and the amount we have left to go to it is...
It makes it lower. So I
damaging.
take the IFO projections and then I adjust them based upon what I've seen as a trend for Hempfield. We could get a higher adjustment, that could change, but that's what the IFO has most recently put out. And we've been pretty close the last time. I think I was within like a 0.1 the last time I did a set of projections on the index.
In my understanding of budgeting, over the last number of years that I've been a part of this, my personal position is that I think in this last year that we have the ability to do this because it's falling off. The next 4 years are the projections, that we should take it, even though it's a small amount of 0.07%, we should take advantage of that this year. That would be my personal position. I know that differs, and we've always differed, so that's okay. But that's just where I feel like planning ahead, getting it where we need it when we can now, because we may not be able to meet our needs in the next 4 or 5 years with the lower projected Act 1 index.
Yeah, I'm really not following our ability to go a lot lower than the Act 1 index
sorry,
at this
Mrs.
point.
Small.
I am not following the reasoning behind how we can go lower than what's projected up here in the yellow right now. So I think I would need that better explained to me.
Well, I think Mr. Maris used to say this, and I'll bring him up because he used to always say, well, we're budgeting flat, you know, and I'm always about not counting our chickens before they hatch either, but we typically have gotten our state funding, and we have gotten some funding that we had, some increases in those areas. So, again, I don't want to count on that, but a lot of times it looks a lot worse at this stage in the decision-making than what it really is. And I do believe we've done the right thing over the last 4+ years to set money aside to offset some of that so that you can start to draw 1% or so year over year in the future. I believe when I look at this, you should never have to go above the 3.5%. As long as we wouldn't go down to 1 or 2% this year, you should be able to stay well under the index, which is 3.7, 3.8, 3.8, 3.5 projected, that we should be able to stay well under that over the next 4 years. I don't see the index cap as being an issue moving forward unless this board had the appetite to go 0, 1%, which boards have done in not the so distant past. So that's where I land. That index cap doesn't scare me when I look at that, only because I believe this board's surely not going to do that.
But that's banking on getting increased state funding year after year. Is it
No,
correct?
not really. To be honest with you, even if it didn't increase, I really still believe we'd be okay at around the 3%. I mean, I probably would be a little more uncomfortable if we went down to 2.5 or less, but I would be okay at 3% looking at the numbers and having been a part of this for the last 4 years.
Mrs. Hall, how much taxing authority do we need to cover the CBA?
So I'd have to go back and look. It's 2 point something is what the projection was.
Okay, so assuming, say, just flat 2%, so taking that bottom line, taxing authority remaining, subtract 2% from that for each of those years, you know, we're, by 2030, 31, we don't have any wiggle room.
Right.
And
I mean,
that's
we don't
just,
have a contract
I mean,
in 2030,
true, but that's assuming it goes along the same
Yes.
path. You know, we don't have that additional wiggle room.
We're assuming we don't do anything with expenses and we continue to run classes with low numbers, and I don't mean to keep bringing this up, but if we're going to be inefficient, yeah, then tax to the max. because you're going to need to. I think there needs to be efficiencies, and there's some of those things I know the district's working on. I'm not being critical. I know this team's been working on, I know the high school's working on. It's not a criticism. It's just a need to continue to do those things, or you are correct, Mr. Best. If we don't manage that correctly, you know, eventually you just keep spending. None of it would work, and the index could be 20% and we won't be okay.
I don't know, who's running this, me or you?
I'm pointing to you.
Mr. Keener.
How are we doing this? Are we going around and all saying what we think, or?
Probably most efficient.
Pardon me?
That's probably the most efficient instead of us all dodging.
All right, well, whose turn is it then?
I don't know, you want to start?
Sure.
Go clockwise.
I could get on board with 2.5, maybe 2.75. I mean, we are headed for a fiscal cliff, and we're headed for a fiscal cliff because our spending is out of control, okay? And we can look at it in terms of class size, we can look at it in terms of unnecessarily expensive playgrounds, we can look at it in terms of the CBA. In reality, it's all of it. We have gotten really bad at disciplining ourselves financially. And we keep saying, oh, it's okay, we're Hempfield, we're rich, we can afford it, we'll raise taxes, that everyone can afford it. You know what? That is the ultimate, that is the epitome of arrogant privilege. For us to sit around this table, being in the situation that we are in, saying, oh, we can afford it, therefore everyone else can afford it. I was elected to serve all of the taxpayers and all of the citizens of Hempfield. And for us to sit here and just blithely assume that we can raise taxes to the index, frankly, to compensate for the fact that we don't know how to say no to anything is not acceptable. And for that reason, I support nothing more than 2.75.
Mr. Williams?
I'm not ready to go to the 4.1, but I think I'm landing around 3.5.
Mr. Wogelmuth?
3% I could be okay with, or between 2.5 to 3.
Mr. Wagner still online? Right. Mrs. Brady?
As I said, I am in favor of going to the 4.1 because I don't see the future numbers looking where I think they need to be.
Mrs. Eshelman?
Please don't speak on other people's privilege, Mr. Keener. And
I'm sorry?
I said, please don't speak on privilege and assume other people's privilege. But I think we have said no to things. I think we have said no to full-day kindergarten because we still are not there yet. So I don't agree with your statement. And because we have said no for so long and now are really building to full-day K for all, I'm supportive of going to 4.1 because it's important and that's where my interests lie. And I think it's important to Hempfield School District, and I think it creates something for everyone. And I think that's been proven in all of the informational sessions we've gotten from the kindergarten exploration committee. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. For myself, I pretty much 4.1 because of the fiscal cliff that Mr. Keener is alluding to, because of the decreasing Act 1 index. I also agree with Mrs. Eshelman. We do say no. In fact, Mr. Landis in his presentation earlier tonight was telling us about the times that they've had to say no. So I also think that while we can continue to look for efficiencies, education is a people-oriented business. It's not like manufacturing, construction, things like that, where you have more chances of efficiency. Even reducing class sizes, I don't think is going to continue to save as much as we would need in order to have that more reduced tax rate. I do think that over the next few years, we are going to have to continue to discuss as a board and an administration some give and take, because We have things that we want to add, such as full-day kindergarten. And in order to pay that, especially as the Act 1 continues to go down, we're going to have to make compromises. We're going to have to talk to the teachers in the next CBA negotiation and show them, this and help them, come up with something where we can actually afford it. I don't like counting on money that hasn't been promised. That being said, historically, we have typically, I think, always gotten more than we did the previous year. So that could be an argument for going less than the index, but I feel like going to the index is smart as far as building for the future. Director Linton?
I agree with much of what you just said, Mr. Best. I also don't like the idea of going to the Act 1 index. I do believe that the budget process, as Mrs. Hall has been going through this with her team, and as we've been privy to with every update, has shown that the team is being responsible in their work and looking for those efficiencies, looking to right size, as you said, Mr. Best. And in order to be able to effectively balance the budget, while it's not my preference, I would not be opposed to 4.1 in order to do what we need to do in a manner that is responsible for future planning and part of the strategic planning that the district has outlined.
Mrs. Small?
Yeah, I mean, speaking last, I feel like a lot of what I would have said has already been said. And just all that to say, I mean, I've been looking at these numbers all year, and I think what I just keep coming back to is I don't know how we can't go to the Act 1 index, given what we want to do as a district and the investments that we need to make. And in some ways, not just the investments in the future, but the fact that we are now addressing needs that have been ignored for a long time. So whether that's, on the infrastructure side, the high school project that has, been pushed down the road for forever has largely put us in this position and is taking a huge chunk. I look at, the Act 1 index and our actual increase over the years, and we did have some times that we could have built additional millage that this board previously chose not to take advantage of. And so that puts us in an unfortunate position right now. So I would not be opposed to going to the Act 1 index.
Any other comments? All right. Do you have what you need, Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we'll have a presentation on the auditing services.
Oh, no. Well, he projects it. I know, but I need my. I'll go. Oh, wait. Will that work? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Will it reach? I think it will. Okay, thank you. Ours is averted.
So we did an RFP for auditing services, and we received 3 proposals from that RFP that went live February 23rd through March 20th. We needed to determine the costs that were associated with those projected out-of-scope work that we did, that we were anticipating that they would do in the first year of the audit. So we had to level off the costs that were in the proposal because there are hourly rates for items that are outside of the initial audit fees. So we looked at that, and we considered possibly 11 hours of work that might be needed in the first year of the audit to take care of that. And so we calculated what it would be for the 3 years for each one of the firms. And so some of the out-of-scope work that we would have could be the compensated, so some of the out-of-scope work might be the compensated absences, leases, the subscription for tech software, and then the schedule of financial awards, and then also our bond issuances. Some lengthy statements that the auditors do, and they may need to do some work in preparation from the previous firm to the new firm. So that's what goes into those costs that we have there. Who could, next slide. Some of the considerations that we had for the selection process was that the business office team met to review the proposals, the credentials and the qualifications. We also had the opportunity to meet with the firms and participate in a question and answer session. Once we went through all of that, we discussed the pros and cons of the firm, make the determination, and we checked the references of the firm. We contacted Manheim Township. They gave a great review and are very pleased with the services. We also checked with Mechanicsburg, came highly recommended, very accommodating, knowledgeable on GASB. Any other questions they had, and also checked with Dover School District, and they were with previously Dallastown, and they also came highly recommended. So some of the things some of the concerns that we had that were important to us were the availability of the staff in the firm, and also the ability to meet with our established timelines, including completing the financial statements, making sure that the AFR is timely, and all the other reports that we have towards the end of the year. Additionally, obviously cost is an issue. We weren't necessarily looking to go with lowest cost because it is a very important function, but it was something that we were looking at as one of our important pieces. And so we decided, you could switch to the next slide. We decided after we met that all the firms were very equally experienced, qualified, and able to manage the size of our district. But based on cost and some of the varying components that we would recommend Boyer and Ritter. And it's also, equally as well that it is the lowest cost for us that will allow us to save some funds for the district over time. So, and Boyer and Ritter, 49 years in business, they do 30 plus school districts and have a pretty large staff to be able to handle our level of auditing. So I don't know if there are any questions or.
Just a comment, no concerns, but I'm glad you got some people interested. I remember the last discussion we had difficulty actually finding anyone willing to take us on, in part because of our size or who knows why, but it's good news. No concerns.
Mr. Keener?
I also have no concerns, and I appreciate the work that went into this. Just curious what happened with Myers-Patsy? Did we not want them? Did they just not want to continue with us, or what happened?
I mean, I'm not sure if they could handle our level of the district.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure if they could handle our level of the district. There was some timeliness.
So we were at the ragged edge of what they could do?
I feel so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. Appreciate the honesty.
Yeah. So.
I just think it's insane. You think all of that added stuff that you said for first year can get done in only 11 hours?
Yeah, well, we're
That's-
hopeful. We're hopeful.
Those are some really highly efficient auditors.
Yeah. Well, it's just out of scope work. So I mean, the whole audit piece is not going to
Yeah, but I'm
take
saying
11
like
hours.
all that added, you kept listing things.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy cow, how are they going to do that
Yeah.
in 11 hours?
I mean, we have all of the work prepared and done, but they'll just be reviewing it for accuracy and
Makes
and
sense.
maybe tweaking some things, so. And they'll have managers review it, so there's different layers of costs associated with it.
A lot of it's dependent on our business office having those things ready, and if you don't, and they have to chase them, the process takes forever.
And
Yeah,
costs us more, yeah.
And Lydia already has a week blocked to get things prepared, and ready for them, because it will be a complete difference from what
Mhm.
I've experienced in other districts that I've been. It's very interesting,
Based on-
what we've had so far here.
Based on both of their experiences,
Yeah.
plus, which mentioned Lydia and Jordan, who are former school auditors as
Yeah.
well. Very solid team to have everything ready, prepared,
Mhm.
and in good order for an auditor to come in and do that work. So
Yeah.
we're very fortunate with the team we have.
Any other questions? All right.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sorry, the next steps again would be that we would put an action item on for the 12th
Okay.
meeting with a contract, if you all agree.
And then last item for discussion are some new contracts that are going to be on the approval in 2 weeks. New 4-year iPad lease, community aid, mission partnership, Express Scripts, Gaggle, Lancaster County Parks, IU13, 2 different contracts, Greenwald Roofing, sponsorship contract, PA Trust Conrad Siegel for GASB 75 valuation, and Roads Energy for bulk fuels. Any questions about any of those? Nope. All right. It is 8:30. Do we want to switch back to,
We can work backwards.
so just continue with financial action items and work backward? All right. Well, the only one that I'm seeing is,
Before we do that, if anyone in the public wishes
Oh,
to
yeah.
comment on any of those items, we can open up for public comment. Any of it?
all right, hearing none. So financial action item is actually a proposal acceptance for Boyer and Ritter. So is that the acceptance here, and then we'll get the contract? Got it. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 8-0. Then back to Mrs. Brady.
And I just want to double check, has Mr. Wagner rejoined us yet? Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, working backwards, let's see what we get next.
Motion to adjourn the buildings and grounds.
No, we still have some buildings, I think we have some buildings and grounds
The what?
stuff to do, don't
We have buildings and grounds action
we? Yeah, I
items.
have a buildings and grounds action item to take care of.
So I need an approval. We're going backwards to Buildings and Grounds Action Item number 4. That's okay. We're all confused.
Sorry, I got confused.
Join the group tonight. I need an approval for Buildings and Grounds Action Items B through D. We already had the presentation on the soil testing, proposal acceptance for Train, and the bid approval for the electrical construction. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Small. Any further questions or discussion?
I think we just wanted to clarify, and we may have already mentioned this, that for the electrical, we do want both adjustments or alternates.
We want the alternates, yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I guess if anyone has any objection to that, let's have a discussion about that.
Within the bid.
Yeah, that'll be the unclassified and the aluminum.
Okay. Everybody good with that? All right, so I need I've got the motion and the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that one carries 8-0. Working backwards, I think we've got everything done with buildings and grounds. Is
So we
that
have to
correct?
adjourn
We have to
this.
adjourn buildings and grounds. So do I have a motion to adjourn the buildings and grounds meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Director Linton. The competition. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 8-0. Now, should we go back to President's Report?
Personnel.
The regular board meeting, item number 9, personnel action items. And given that, I just wanted to ask very quickly that because of board docs being down, are there any things within this section of the regular board meeting that anybody needs a couple of minutes to review reports because they didn't have sufficient time during access? Okay. So personnel action item A, I need a motion to approve the personnel action items as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Small. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's 8-0. Next, we have finance action items B through F. We have contracts for approval. It's just the Three Monkeys contract for the Gaga Pit at Centerville. And then our financial reports as typically presented. Make sure I'm doing this right. B through F, yep. The food service financial reports, the financial transaction report, and the Lancaster County Academy proposed budget. And that's everything. Do I have a motion to
Motion.
approve B through F?
Motion.
Mr. Best, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? It's 8-0. And now looking at policy action items, item number 11 on that agenda, the first reading of board policy, motion to approve the first reading of policy 106, guides for planned instruction, 107, adoption of planned instruction, 110, instruction supplies, 112, school counseling, 140, charter schools, and 221, dress and grooming. Do I have a motion to approve the first reading of those board policies?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Small. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 8-0. Other action items, approval of action items B through D as presented. That would be the sale and donation and disposal of items, the overnight trip for the science fair student, the non-school sponsored trip. Do I have a motion to approve 12B through 12D as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Eshelman. Any questions or comments, discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's 8-0 also. Lastly, a motion to approve the resolution calling for increased state funding as presented. Yes, I just need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Linton. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to give that one to Mr. Best. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, just a quick question.
Mr. Keener?
Merkel, you said you rewrote this a little bit, right?
I added in, let me just pull it up. It initially came from PSBA, and then what I did after going through it, reading it, I added passing a budget no later than June 30th, and if the budget impasse occurs, immediately pass a permanent automatic law that guarantees prior year basic ed funding, BEF, payments to school districts until the budget is approved, is what I added. And then I added establishing a statewide tuition rate for cyber charter schools, the adequacy funding, the sustained increases in BEF, the substantial increases to special ed, and the sustained state funding to support infrastructure, and if sufficient resources for career and tech were already there from PSBA. I was good with all of those. I just felt like the other two things would be important to add in.
Thank you.
Yep.
Very good. I have the motion and the second, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one carries 8-0. Have I missed anything?
Did we have to approve the minutes?
We did that as a
Did we?
procedural piece earlier.
We did do that, yep, I
Okay.
have that marked.
Yep. Ms. Small and Mrs. Eshelman were first and second. It was a 9-0 vote. Mr. Wagner was on.
And McConnell came under the
I have it as a 9-0.
Okay.
I have it as 9-0 as
Yeah.
well.
Anything else that we need to catch up on this busy evening? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Keener. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Linton. Any comments? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 8-0. Look at that, 8:35, that's good. Thank you, everyone.